Welcome back to another episode of the Career Dive podcast. I'm your host, Anna Baliva, a career coach and a LinkedIn learning instructor. Today, we'll talk about how to get unstuck in your job search. I will be breaking down some common scenarios where I see you guys get stuck as you're job searching. So, from things like not taking action at all, to getting stuck by not getting interviews, to getting interviews but not moving forward, we'll be breaking down 8 common scenarios. Before we dive into the episode, I want to give a shout out to one of my clients inside the Start Canada program, Anne Sophie. She just let us know that she just signed an offer at her target company. Anne Sophie is based in London, UK. She is a marketing lead and she was transitioning from CPG to clean tech. And let me tell you, she started the Start Canada program on November 22nd. And I'm recording this episode at the end of January. So it's only been 2 months. And when she posted in our LinkedIn group, she mentioned that she has done 2 other programs before joining the Start Canada program. And by far, the Start Canada program is the most in-depth and helpful in her getting this offer and learning how to network. You guys know I'm big on networking, getting into that mindset of the Start Canada and really feeling empowered and in control in your job search. And also from the clarity perspective, because if you've been tuning into the podcast, you know that we're big on getting crystal clear on the right role for you. And we have our proven 4-step process to help you build your dream job prototype and validate it. In coaching, Anne-Sophie also mentioned that the way she presented herself in interviews, starting from her tell me about yourself, has been noted by multiple interviewers throughout her process. So, friends, I know what we teach is incredible. I know that what you learn in the Start Canada program really gets you to that next level 6-figure dream job. Because again, I've seen it happen hundreds of times. And I'm 100% confident in what I teach in the program. At the same time, I don't really know what you learn in other programs, but we do get quite a few clients in the Start Canada program who come from resume writers or other programs and tell us that what they were doing was not working and was not enough. And they join us and they tell us, wow, this is a whole other level. So this is something that is so important to me that you really get in, you really get results in the fastest, most efficient way possible, that you don't spend your time on things that don't really matter, like editing your resume hundreds of times, applying to many jobs. Someone actually told us that one of the coaches that she was considering before joining the Start Canada program told her to just apply for more jobs. So again, I don't know what else is out there. I know that what we teach is incredible and it gets people amazing results, but it always is really interesting to see that feedback from our clients. So, congrats, Anne Sophie. I am celebrating you so, so, so hard. All right, my friends, let's dive into the episode. I'm going to walk you through 8 common scenarios where I see job seekers get stuck. And the first one we're going to start with is a scenario where you know you want change, you know you want a new role, but you're not taking action altogether. You're just sitting on this idea. So maybe you keep going back to this idea of what if. So maybe you truly deeply know that you need a bigger change, that you ideally want to pivot careers, but you keep thinking, well, what if I have to take a pay cut? What if I have to start from scratch? What if this is going to be really painful and really difficult? So you keep sitting on this whole process altogether and not taking action. Or maybe in the past, your job search was really painful and lengthy, and you really, really hated it. So it came maybe with a lot of rejection, and now this fear of rejection. And looking back at your past experience job searching is keeping you, again, from taking action and actually moving towards your dream opportunity and your dream life. Because as you guys know, I always talk about how your dream career is the kind of career that supports your dream lifestyle, not the other way around. So, my friend, if that's you and you keep sitting on this but not taking action, here's what I want for you to do. Here's how you're going to get unstuck. So, first, I want for you to actually close your eyes. If you're driving, don't. But if you're not, close your eyes, then ask yourself, if I'm still where I am today, 6 months from now, how would that feel? How would I feel? Would I be disappointed, frustrated, upset? What would you tell yourself? what would that person 6 months from now tell yourself today? Would that person say, you know, you should start the job search process right now? Next, I want for you to really, if there's a lot of fear that's coming up for you, I really want for you to address this fear head on. So I actually want for you to sit down this weekend or whenever you listen to this podcast. It usually comes out on Fridays. So if you're listening on Friday or over the weekend, I want for you to sit down and write out your biggest fears, your worst case scenario. So you're starting from scratch, starting from zero, you're taking a big pay cut. And then I want for you to work through how you would handle this worst case scenario. You're right, even if it is a pay cut. And by the way, just a note here for you that even big career change does not have to come with a pay cut or starting from the bottom. And once again, I've helped hundreds of people through this. So you don't have to start from the bottom or take a pay cut. But let's again work through this worst case scenario. What would that look like? Maybe you would change your lifestyle temporarily for a year or two. Maybe you would downsize and move from a house to an apartment. Maybe you would get rid of your car. Or maybe you would take on a side project. You'll start freelancing to start bringing in additional income. What are the options if this worst case scenario happens? So what I really want for you to see is that there are options. And that even if the worst case scenario happens, you'll be totally okay. Then, after you write out this worst case scenario, what I want for you to do is to ask yourself. So, this biggest fear that you have, so again, let's say massive pay cut starting from the bottom, I want for you to ask yourself if this is a thought or a fact. I ask this to my clients often when they're kind of in their head a little bit and maybe spiraling. I ask this often. Is this thing that you're thinking about, the scenario that you're thinking about, is this a thought or is this a fact? And a fact is something that can be proven in the court of law. So gravity is a fact. So this thought that you have, so let's say that I will have to take a massive pay cut. Is this a fact? So again, you can prove that in the court of law, that absolutely, without a doubt, there is no other scenario. I will have to take a massive pay cut. Or is this just a thought? And I bet you're realizing, you know what? It kind of is a thought. And maybe you even go a step further and you start thinking back to where this thought is coming from. And maybe you'll realize that, you know what? It's just a friend of mine who did a career pivot and they had to start from scratch or they had to start from the bottom. So now I'm thinking that's the only scenario. Or maybe that's something that you kind of just have heard in the workplace. Maybe your family is saying that. Where is this thought coming from? Because it's probably not even your own thought, which just something really interesting to realize is that all of these big fears that we have, a lot of the time, they're not even our thoughts. It's just something that we have seen in the media. Maybe you have seen examples in your life. But again, it's just a thought. All right, so we've talked about doing a little exercise where you're picturing yourself 6 months from now. We talked about addressing your fears head on. And the final thing I want for you to do is to start setting micro goals. So I want for you to start taking action, but teeny tiny. It's not scary. It's not taking up a lot of your time, but it's strategic action. So maybe this weekend, that tiny strategic action is to reach out to one person. And that's one person you know already. So that may be an old boss, an old coworker, a distant family member. So someone who you know is well connected, someone who would be beneficial to talk to for this next chapter in your life. That's all. Just reach out to someone you already know and set up a meeting for February. That's it. That's all you need to do. That's the micro action. And I have a feeling that just this one small thing, one tiny action, and one meeting will spark something in you that, hey, this was actually really easy to have this conversation. And they said that there is someone they want to introduce me to. And I bet that will start that snowball effect for you. So that's how you're going to get unstuck if you're not taking action altogether. All right. Second scenario is you're waiting to get more education or more certifications first before starting to move towards your dream career. I often talk to job seekers who keep telling me that, okay, I want this next role. I'm so excited. I want to take action, but I can't because I need to do the certification first. Or maybe I even need to go back to school to get a full new degree. This often happens when you look at job descriptions that seem interesting that you want to pursue and you feel like you're not qualified. So maybe you see those certifications listed and you feel like, okay, got it, LinkedIn. I need to get the certification first. So there are a few things that we need to talk about here. First is the fact that most job descriptions are not really accurate. So there are kind of two ways job descriptions are created. Oftentimes, honestly, it's just a generic job description for, let's say, a project manager that doesn't actually describe a real human with real experience that is just being copy pasted over and over again. The second option here is job descriptions where a recruiter does sit down with the hiring manager, ask them a bunch of questions of what is it that this person is going to be working on, what is most important to you. And what tends to happen here is the hiring manager just kind of is describing anything and listing anything and everything that they can think of. So they're thinking, you know what? This person we had in this role before, he did the certification. So let's add that. And he also had experience in XYZ. That was kind of useful. So let's add that to the job description. And they just kind of keep adding on to the job description, essentially describing a person that probably doesn't even exist. So most of the job descriptions, again, realistically, are describing a unicorn. And the recruiter and the hiring manager know that. And they don't actually expect for you, this is very important, they don't expect for you to have all of these things listed that you're seeing. Yet you see it and you make your whole future planning based on this random job description that you saw online. At the same time, I often find that the idea of getting more education comes from fear. And it comes from fear of getting uncomfortable and getting out there and actually doing job search. Because if you're still studying, then you can tell everyone, well, yeah, I'm not job searching, or I'm not focused on it, or I'm not successful in it because I'm still studying. So I find that people keep getting degrees and certifications because they're scared what's going to happen when they kind of face real life. So it's kind of that constant cycle of learning, which again, we'll talk about that in a second, that learning is good, but it's a cycle of constant learning without taking action. It's that kind of idea of a permanent student. So people who keep going back to school, getting more degrees without getting into the real world. So maybe you are in the real world, maybe you are working, but you're not moving forward towards your dream career because you keep thinking that you need more education. And what I want for you to think about is, now that you know how the job descriptions are created, unless, and I really, really need for you to hear this, unless you have the hiring manager for your dream role tell you, listen, you need to get this degree, you need to get this certification. Without it, there's absolutely no way you can get a job like this. Then yes, maybe you do need that certification. Oh, and by the way, if it's just one person, just one hiring manager tells you that, I would still take that with a grain of salt because it's just one person's opinion. If 3 hiring managers tell you, again, hiring managers for your dream job, tell you explicitly, tell you that you do need this type of education, then yes, let's go and get it. But in 95% of scenarios, it's not the certification, it's not the degree that's stopping you. Realistically, it's you not wanting to get rejected, not wanting to get uncomfortable and face that rejection that's stopping you from getting this next level role. So ask yourself, are you just delaying the uncomfortable by pursuing more education? If you're stuck with this idea that I need to get more education, there are 2 things I want for you to do. Number 1, I want for you in this next month to connect with, let's not say 3, let's say at least 2 hiring managers for your dream jobs and really have a conversation with them about what this role is about and what is really required and what this hiring manager would be so excited to see from someone for this role. And then make your decision whether you need more education or not. If the conclusion is, yes, I do need more education, what I want for you to do is to take parallel action, meaning that you are learning, so you're getting that education, but you're also taking steps to actually progress towards that dream role. So that can look like, again, meeting people and building your network. I won't shut up about that. And also building your brand. So it can look like sharing your journey towards this dream job and going through this education, sharing that on LinkedIn through content. So, bottom line here, you need to do your due diligence first. All right, scenario number 3, you are over perfecting your resume. I see you. So, if you have rewritten your resume 10 times, if you have hired a resume writer multiple times, and you still keep going back and editing your resume, if you keep obsessing over the format, every single detail, then this is for you. I want for you to apply the 2-hour rule. And by the way, I just invented this 2-hour rule, but I want for you to still apply it. The 2-hour rule means you're going to spend 2 hours on your resume, and that's it. You're not allowed to spend more than 2 hours on your resume, and you're going to leave it alone. That's it. Because again, if you've been tuning into the podcast, you know that your resume is not that important. Your resume is not what's actually preventing you from getting interviews. I need for you to hear this today. Your resume is not the problem. Employers now get thousands of applications, especially with most of them being generated by AI. So they get so many resumes that it's really, really overwhelming. And again, this kind of has been the case for decades, where employers have not been relying on online applications and resumes, because from the employer perspective, well, I'm just sitting there and waiting for the perfect candidate to come to me. But as a good employer, as a smart employer, as a smart recruiter, I don't want to rely on luck. I want to create my own luck. I'm going to go out there and find the kind of people that I want. So it's either I'm headhunting them proactively or I'm asking around for referrals. So that's your crash course on what goes on behind the scenes. Your resume is not the problem. 2 hours max, leave it alone, and focus on strategies that actually work. All right, scenario number 4. You keep hitting easy apply button. Listen, I know it's tempting. I know you come home from work. I know you're tired. I know you're frustrated with your job. You want to move forward, but you're tired. So you just want that easy, quick fix. And easy apply button is there. And listen, we all wish we could skip the hard work and just click a button and things just work out. And maybe sometimes they do. But if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably someone who doesn't want just any job. You want a very specific job. You want a career that you love, that challenges you, that excites you. You want an amazing boss. You want an amazing team. You want exciting projects. You want great clients. You want to be paid 6 figures, high 6 figures. You don't want just any job. So you're so specific with what you want, yet you're leaving it up to luck, really, by clicking on easy apply button. And I get it. There is that maybe just this one time it works out. But once again, create your own luck. So what are you going to do is you're going to, from now on, when you have this instinct of, I'm just going to click, I'm just going to apply, I want for you to pause. And I want for you to tell yourself, quality over quantity. Remind yourself, well, I don't want just any job. I want the right job for me. And before I do this, I'm going to remind myself that I am in charge, that I'm in control, that I'm creating my own luck, and that I'm going to be pursuing my next role thoughtfully. Because maybe you have settled before, and that's why you're job searching again. I don't want for you to settle. I don't want for you to just take something because that was the only option. I want for you to get the right role. So you're going to be job searching thoughtfully. Quality over quantity. All right, scenario number 5. You are losing focus and you are applying for anything and everything. So I see this quite often. So you start job search with a lot of excitement. You're excited for that right role that we just talked about and what that can look like and how that's going to feel. And maybe, you're going to be traveling with this next role, or it will give you the lifestyle that you want. And you're also really in love with the type of work that you do. So you're so excited about this next chapter. And you start job search with a lot of focus. So you're not just clicking on easy apply for anything and everything, but you're very, very focused with the type of opportunity that you're pursuing. So you start with a clear target, but weeks go on, months go on, and you're not really getting a lot of traction. So you start getting frustrated, you start losing patience, you start getting demotivated, maybe a little bit desperate. So you start to broaden your search. So slowly but surely, you start to apply for everything and anything. So anything that's remotely, yeah, I can do that. I guess that could be interesting. This is kind of something related to what I did before, but the broader your target, the more diverse type of roles that you're after, the harder it is to actually land any of them. So you're actually doing yourself a disservice by pursuing different types of roles, by pursuing these very different types of roles. Because when you're doing that, it is really hard to be seen as the right fit. It is really hard for the employer to see, well, why do you want to do this if you were doing this before? It is much harder to network because, well, who are you supposed to be pursuing and reaching out to and building connections with if you're just going for everything? This is key here. Being intentional with your job search and being focused with the type of companies and roles that you're after will actually get you to your goal faster. So only pursuing, let's say, 2 opportunities a month or 2 companies a month that you actually truly are excited about, but you are taking very strategic action towards those opportunities, will get you interviews there a lot faster than you applying for 200 random jobs within that same period of time. I can guarantee you that. So if that's you, if you know you lost your focus, here's what you're going to do. I actually want for you to stop applying altogether. So I want for you to take a bit of a break and recalibrate. So I want for you to think what's working and what's not working. And I want for you to really realize, you know what? I've been spending a lot of my time and a lot of effort on these applications and for jobs that I'm not even that excited about, and I'm not getting anywhere. So wait a second, this actually doesn't work. So what am I doing here? And what I want for you to do is to revisit your target. And I want for you to do it not when you are kind of, frustrated after a long day at work and you're like, I can't do this anymore. So don't revisit your target then. Revisit your target maybe on a weekend, maybe when you're feeling good, relaxed. Maybe you just saw a friend that you really love and you're feeling very good. That's what I want for you to sit down and get back into that dreamy mode. What is it that I want? What is this next opportunity? What would make this a dream opportunity? So I want for you to rediscover that. And in the next scenario, we'll talk about what to actually do if you're not getting interviews, which was part of this scenario as well. With that, we have scenario number 6, and that is you're just not getting interviews. So that's where you're stuck with your job search. So you've applied for dozens, a few dozens, 100 roles, and you're not really moving forward. And maybe you're starting to doubt yourself and you're starting to doubt your qualifications. And I actually have seen this quite often recently. There are quite a few senior, director and above level clients that have been joining us inside the Start Canada program. And all of that are telling me the same thing, that they maybe got laid off or they haven't, but they're looking for their next opportunity and they keep applying and they're in shock. They keep saying, well, what was it all for? I've built this amazing career. I've built a really solid career and I have these big brands on my resume, but I'm applying and I'm not getting anywhere. And I tell them, what in the world are you doing at your level? Actually, at most levels, but especially at that senior level, jobs are just not filled through online applications because the pool of candidates that employers would actually consider for those roles is so small that, again, employers know that the chances of that right person applying are so small that they're hiring the headhunting companies to help them find those people. And they're, once again, I talk about this literally every single day. and they're looking at who they know already. So, what happens is you just don't have the right strategy. Maybe you're using something that has worked for you in the past, like applying online in the beginning of your career. But because you have this wrong strategy, you're instead questioning yourself and you're questioning your own qualifications and your whole career. So, I'm telling you, it's not you, it's not your skills, it's not your career, it's just your strategy. So, what you're going to do is to diversify where you actually spend your time. So you're going to split your time on looking at companies that you want to join, and you're going to be meeting people at those companies proactively, whether they're hiring or not. And one of my clients, Teresa, just recently signed an offer, and she told me, here's how it happened. She told me that it is within her target company. She did meet people there in the fall. So she joined the Start Canada program, I want to say September or October after she got laid off, director level. So she was really senior and she had all of those skills already. But again, she was following our proactive strategy that we teach. And she met people at her target company. They were not hiring. So that was in the fall. Now, this January, someone she knows quite well and personally got a job within that company. And he reached out to her saying, listen, I know you've been looking. I'm really enjoying it here. And we are looking for someone to join this director level role. Let me introduce you to a few people. And guess what? When he does that, they say, oh, Teresa, we've already met Teresa. How freaking powerful is that? That's like such a true star candidate move where people within your target company already know you, they already like you, way before there is even a job opening. So I want for you to be spending time on your target companies and meeting people there, meeting decision makers there, even if they're not hiring. Then the second way you're going to be spending your time is when you are seeing roles that you are very excited about, those are your target roles, your first instinct before you apply is who can I reach out to? And you're reaching out to not just the hiring manager, but you're meeting with or trying to meet with, because the time is now of the essence here, anyone on the team that would respond to you, you want to connect with, because A, you're getting a lot of intel and what's really going on in the projects and the clients that they have. But that's also your best chance to get an introduction to the hiring manager. And again, reach out to the hiring manager directly, but sometimes they don't respond. So that's where you will start spending time this February instead of applying for all of those jobs. All right, let's talk about scenario number 7. You get first round interviews, but you're not moving forward in the process. And this is kind of frustrating, right? So the employer sees that you have the skills that they're looking for. They get excited, but then they have that first screening call with you and you're not moving forward. And you're probably wondering, well, what in the world is going on? So here's how you're going to get unstuck here. So first, I want for you to reflect on any of the patterns there. Are there any common themes that you're seeing with those interviews? Were they for the same roles? Were they for the same types of companies? If they were all for different types of roles, then it probably was some lack of experience. If they're for mostly more or less similar roles, the problem is how you articulate your experience. Because that first round is they're not even looking for you to be that star candidate yet. They're not even necessarily looking to see that you are, again, a superstar at what you have done before, but they're looking to see that you have the experience that they're looking for. And again, not everything that they're looking for, but the must-haves that they're looking for, the must-have skills and experiences. And if you do, in fact, have it, which again, because you got the interview, you probably do, it goes back to how you talk about that experience. And I have talked about this before, that the best candidate for the job is typically not the candidate who gets the role, because you can have all the right experience, but if you can't articulate it, then the employer doesn't actually know that you have that experience for sure and that you're good at it. So an easy way to think about it here is to understand what are the top 3 skills and or experiences that employer is looking for from someone for this role. And you need to go into the interview. You need to make it your mission to make sure that you articulate that you have the skills and experience matching those 3 things that they're looking for. Make it kind of for yourself to make it easier. Do it that way. Just connect what they're looking for with the 3 things that you bring. And again, with my students, we really dive into this in detail. We're building an interview plan. I'm teaching you how to connect that step by step so that going into the interview, you have a very concrete plan of the stories that you're going to bring up, skills and experiences that you must mention, objections that you know may come up based on skills and experiences that you don't have, how you're going to address that. So I help you build that. But to make it simple, just think three things. All right, we made it to scenario number 8. And that is you're getting interviews, you're getting through the screening round, but you're not landing offers. So this is frustrating. And this does make you question yourself and your skills and your abilities and your experience. Again, very normal. And what happens here is at this point, when you're getting through the first round and into the further rounds, the employer knows, especially when you get to the last round, employer knows that you can do the job. They know that you have the must-have skills that they're looking for. So that's what we talked about in the previous scenario. So those three things, the main things they know you have. But at this point, they're looking for two things. Now that they know that the must-haves are covered, they're looking at whether they like you personally, so whether they're connecting with you on that level. And they're looking at, are you actually good at what you do? Are you good at what you have done before? Because that is the best indicator that you will be really good at what you do next. So with that, it really is all about how you communicate and present the experience that you do have and how you bring it back to the employer and show them what that experience means to them. Now, let's talk for a second here about connecting personally. To an extent, if they are looking, let's say it's a sales team and it's very, let's say broy, right? So they're looking for someone very, very particular for the team and you just culturally are not a fit. Well, then it's a good thing you didn't get that job because you wouldn't really fit in and feel good in that role and in that team. But for the most part, this personal connection, and again, some of it is just personal. Do I like you? Do I not like you? But a lot of it has to do with the feeling that that person has when they're interviewing you. So, do they feel at ease? Do they enjoy talking to you? Do they feel very relaxed and excited when they are talking to you? And that all is coming from you. So, I'll give you an example. One of my clients in the Start Canada program, Renee, when we met, I believe the first time I talked to her was December. And she was going through a lot. She just joined the program. She was job searching for a while. So she was very stressed. And I could see that. I could see that in her body language. I could see that in her face, in her posture, in her shoulders, in just how she talked. Again, it's that intangible feeling. And this week, she told me she's interviewing for 5 different opportunities. She said no to some, and she got this other opportunity. Now that she said no to one of them, there's a new thing that came up. And the way she's talking, I pointed that out to her in coaching this week that, Renee, I can see the difference. I can see it in your face, in your posture, in how you carry yourself, how you're talking about everything. And I am telling you, Renee, this is what I told her, that the employer can feel this too. So this is partially what personal connection and that liking someone has to do with. How do you make them feel in the process? And oftentimes, maybe you're saying all the right things, you memorize how to say and what to say. But again, it's the feeling that you left behind. The employer is like, I just don't feel like it's the right person. And that is also part of the decision. And they can't even pinpoint what that was, but they just didn't feel good. Now, before we talk about how to get unstuck, I do want to point out that with interviews, there is so much that you have no control over. Yes, I'll teach you how to prepare for interviews, how to structure your answer, how to structure your communication, what frameworks to use, how to structure your prep, how to prep in a way where you are coming across very relaxed and confident. I can teach you all of that. But once again, there's so many factors that you are not privy to and you have no control over. So there is an internal candidate or the budget changed, or maybe they, needed to hire this person 6 months ago. So now they're so far behind. They don't have time for someone who maybe is not as experienced that they liked better to train and to get up to speed. And they need someone who is coming from a direct competitor with the exact same experience and the knowledge that they need so that that person can hit the ground running day one. So again, there's so many factors that sometimes it's just not about you. So I just wanted to mention that don't be too hard on yourself with job interviews. However, if this keeps happening, this is how you're going to get unstuck. So there are three things I'm going to talk about here. Number one is, where possible, try to get feedback. And I know we all, or most of us, ask for feedback, especially when it's been multiple rounds of interviews and you felt so invested and you feel like they were invested in you and you ask for feedback, you never hear back. So I know that happens, but we actually talked again about this in coaching with my client Karen, and she told me that she actually has met a lot of people, and that's kind of her approach. Yeah, that's what we teach in the program. That's her approach to job search. She meets a lot of people on the inside, and we talked about going back to some of those people after she didn't get the role and getting their feedback to really understand, okay, well, what was it? And if the feedback that she gets is, listen, there was just this one skill that you're missing, and this happens a couple of times, then back to what we talked about earlier with education, or that also is applicable to specific experience, then she needs to get this experience, whether it's through a project at work, through freelancing. We'll get her that experience in a different way. But maybe it's just the delivery or that confidence that need to be worked on. So having people on the inside is so helpful in actually getting the feedback. Second thing here is is to use networking to get intel. I know I won't shut up about networking, but it really does allow you to understand what's going on, what truly is going on. Did they really put the role on pause? Is it a permanent pause? What's going on? It also gives you intel on who you will be meeting with, how to prepare, what to expect. One of my clients had, Nishida had someone on the inside help her prep for case interviews, reviewed the case that she was given to work on, reviewed her presentation, and really just fully was preparing her for the process. And again, it's someone she met like a month prior. So it was kind of a stranger. But again, that's what happens through networking. And just having that level of preparation and insight is a whole other ballgame and is what star candidates do. And the more senior that you are, the more important this intel becomes. And finally, number three, you need to learn how to connect the dots for the employer. So you know how in the previous scenario, we talked about the three things that the employer is looking for and making sure that with your examples, you're hitting one of those three things every single time. So we're connecting the dots and helping the employer see you in that role. But also here, it means that you need to bring those dots, connecting the dots to the next level. So not just, hey, I have done that or I have that experience, but also listen, I'm also really good at that. And Mr. and Mrs. Employer, this is what this means for you. This is what me having that experience or having that example that I just talked about, this is what it means for you. This is how it will affect you. This is what I will be able to build for you as well. That's what it means when I say connecting the dots for the employer. All right, my friends, we have just talked through 8 common scenarios of where you can be getting stuck with job search. What I want for you to do is to pick at least one strategy from this episode and apply it. And we have talked about some actionable things that you can do this weekend, this month. I want for you to do at least one thing from this episode. And of course, if you are someone who is ready to take action, you don't want to spin the wheels and try to figure it out on your own. If you want to finally figure out how this job search thing works, if you want to level up in your career and go to that 6-figure dream level, if you want to get clarity on what that next opportunity is for you, join me inside the Start Canada program. That's what we do together, and I would love to see you on the inside. All right, that's it for today. I will see you very soon.